Audio Jungle.
Now, my name is Professor Arif Harekar. It's a short introduction. I've been traveling for the last 38 years, and as you all know, or you might not know, I have a great passion for traveling and for wildlife. And the same passion for wildlife has taken me today to the southernmost part of Costa Rica. Costa Rica is one of the Central American countries, and it is full and is very rich in wildlife. It has birds, it has animals, it has mammals, it has primates, you name it, and it has it. So today we will be describing to you the different parts of southern Costa Rica. Now, southern Costa Rica, the area that I went to, the area that I traveled to, is called Osa Peninsula. It is a huge area full of wildlife, and the best part of that area is the Corcovado National Park, which has a lot of wildlife, both in terms of birds, in terms of mammals, in terms of animals, you name it, and it has it. So much so that the ants and the small insects are quite numerous. So today we will be taking you all the way down to the South Pacific Ocean, the southern part of Costa Rica, so that you enjoy the rich wildlife in Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do subscribe to our channel so that we continue to update you on every new and exotic video that comes out. So my next destination was Costa Rica. Now, Costa Rica is a country which is based or located in Central America and is known for its rich biodiversity, rich wildlife, and of course beautiful beaches and landscapes. On the 13th of May 2015, I landed in this populous city of San Jose. It is the country's seat of the national government. The city is located in Costa Rica's western province in the Central Valley. San Jose covers a land area of 42 square kilometers and has a population. So I had actually chosen Costa Rica, like I do, for my passion for wildlife. And after a night stay in San Jose, I took a short flight of 11 minutes only to the southern portion of Costa Rica. My target was Osa Peninsula, which is the southernmost portion of Costa Rica towards the South Pacific Ocean. Now, Osa Peninsula's airport is Drake Bay. This 11-minute flight over the Osa Peninsula's coastline to Drake Bay was absolutely amazing. You can see for yourself the coastline, the beaches were exquisite. They were gorgeous, and the forestation which I could see while squinting down on the Osa Peninsula was absolutely amazing. There was a dense forest, lush green areas, and the intensity was so much that I thought from the top that it would be even difficult to track. This short flight made things very, very impressive, very inspiring. I knew I was in for a great time to this well-known biodiversity area, Osa Peninsula, and its Corcovado National Park. So I landed on Drake Bay, and since I had arranged the whole trip and my travel agent was extremely meticulous, I was picked up at the airport and taken to a boat, and then we cruised along the South Pacific Ocean to my resort called the Aguila de Osa. Now, while I was cruising along the South Pacific Ocean, I could see the intense forestation. The rainforests looked absolutely amazing. The coastline was exotic, and I knew that this place had some of the best wildlife in the world, and also the forests and the jungle. After this 1-hour trip over the South Pacific Ocean, I reached my destination the Aguila de Osa resort. As we closed in to the resort, I could see this gentleman waiting for me, and he was my favorite guide, Carlos. My luggage was carried through, and I, with Carlos, went up to the dining area and was received by Brad, the owner of the beautiful resort. Now, looking at the resort, this was amazing. It was located in a very thick, rugged forested areas and overlooking the South Pacific Ocean. It was at a height made in such a way that one could view the Drake Bay from the top. I spent some time in the dining area, registered myself, checked in, was given a drink, had a great lunch, and then was taken to my room on the first floor. Of course, the resort was amazing in more ways than one. The services were good, and everything I could see was very colorful and very pleasant. When I got into my room, the first question I asked my porter was that, "Do you see wildlife or do you see birds?" And he said, "Well, sir, stand on your balcony and look at the tree." And I was totally astonished to see some huge scarlet macaws, totally undisturbed by my presence. And they were right in front of me over my balcony. What more did I want? What a great start to my trip to Costa Rica. The very purpose of which I was here was being fulfilled, accomplished right from here. I was able to photograph and make videos of these beautiful, multicolored scarlet macaws. This place was amazing. The steps were a little steep because I had to go get onto my first floor room, but it was made in such a way that one could overlook and view while sitting in your own room the South Pacific Ocean and of course the Drake Bay and its beautiful landscape. So even before I landed, I knew that the rainforests were absolutely amazing. They were untamed rainforests, and this is why this place was called the tropical paradise. So while I lay back in my cozy bed in the Aguila de Osa, I started thinking about my flight. Just 11 minutes, and the Drake Bay, the beach line, the Osa Peninsula, they were awesome, absolutely amazing. And I didn't see too much traffic there. I saw them barren, isolated, serene, and gorgeous. I thought the short flight had shown me that Costa Rica boasts one of the best sceneries, the most incredible sceneries that I've seen in my 38 years of travel. And the sight was absolutely stunning. The flight was amazing. As I was recalling the sight from the plane, I was thinking, even if people were not interested in wildlife like I was, they could still, of course, come to this place just to see the beauty, just to see the enchanting beauty and the wilderness. I always take a window seat. I was also wondering if I hadn't taken a window seat, I wouldn't have seen all this from the top. And these trips are once in a lifetime trips. While relaxing, I also was wondering how I could ever forget these awe-inspiring and breathtaking scenes that you see from the plane, and they will never ever be forgotten. I had read that Osa Peninsula is a true jewel of land, water and life, and all coming to right from the beginning. Imagine Costa Rica has 2.5% of the total biodiversity of the planet Earth and is not even 1,000th of it. You can well imagine how intense and how biologically strong this area is. So together with it being such a wonderful resort, my resort was so well located that it could easily access to my target station in the Corcovado National Park, and of course not very far from the Canoes Biological Reserve. I was completely overwhelmed by this marine and adventure lodge, which was nestled among the jungle-covered hillside overlooking the tranquil waters of Drake Bay. I thought that Aguila de Osa was an exquisite marine forest and adventure hotel. At the edge of the Osa, the lodge was an ideal place for someone like an adventurer like me. So the next morning again I could see those scarlet macaws. They were large, yellow, red and blue. They are Central American parrots and they are a member of the large group of neotropical parrots. However, it is said, but I must say that poaching and habitat destruction are responsible for still the dwindling numbers. I thought that Aguila de Osas was set up against a backdrop of vibrant green forest and some stunning Pacific shoreline. So I spent a restful night at the Aguila de Osa, the rest house or the resort. And the next morning we left in a boat cruising across the South Pacific Ocean to the famous Corcovado National Park. Now, Corcovado National Park, of course, harbors some exquisite, exotic wildlife, and this was the purpose for which I traveled all the way to Osa Peninsula, the southernmost part of Costa Rica. There are two main entrances to the Corcovado National Park. One is San Pedrillo and the second one is Sirena. So Corcovado National Park, of course, is a national park on the Osa Peninsula in the Osa Canton, southwestern Costa Rica, which is part of the Osa Conservation Area. It's very important to conserve life, and it is a restricted area, so there is a wee bit of deforestation and loss of habitat, but the wildlife is fairly well preserved. We made an entry through San Pedrillo, so it's a huge park. Not everyone comes for the wildlife. Some people just come to see the beautiful park. So, and they just hike. Obviously, you can hike from one ranger station to the other ranger station. We made an entry through the San Pedrillo ranger station, of course, after we checked in and registered ourselves. With my guide, a very well-versed guide, and 3 other visitors, we started moving and hiking. I'd like to add that the Corcovado National Park was established in 1975, and it encompasses area of 424 square kilometers. It is the largest park in Costa Rica and protects about a third of the Osa Peninsula's wildlife, fauna and flora. It is thus widely considered as the crown jewel in the extensive system of national parks and biological reserves spread across the whole country. In fact, to go one step forward, the National Geographic labeled it as the most biologically intense place on Earth in terms of biodiversity. So it's popular with both the tropical ecologists and, of course, with people like me who are enthusiasts for wildlife, with the abundance of wildlife in this park. Now, since there are 2 stations, the Sirena and the San Pedrillo that I mentioned, 2 ranger stations, it is known that someone like me, a single-day visitor to the park, should use the San Pedrillo as I'm doing now, because it is easier to access. The other thing is, the disadvantage is that San Pedrillo's ranger station's entrance does not give you too much of wildlife. You're lucky to see some of them. But if you get into Sirena, that has intense wildlife with anteaters, with pumas, other cats, the tapis, and many other wildlife. So we continued to hike as we moved on. And we were looking for wildlife, and we continued to move on. It was not easy, but the terrain was quite flat. Good for me. I was using my trekking sticks with my bad knee, but it worked, of course. So while we continued to move on, we could see a few things, including a tapir. Now, we saw two tapirs at different occasions. One was sitting in a swamp and the other one was moving around. Now, I was lucky to focus and spend time on the tapir that was in the swamp. Now, tapir is known to be made of 4 different animals: the horse's family, the rhinoceros legs, the nose of an elephant, the back of a mule, and it is generally harmless. It doesn't attack unless it has babies with it. So one has to be careful, of course, because it is in its own habitat. Now, seeing the tapir was very, very lucky, because before I left, actually, my able guide told me that it is not seen very frequently, and in the couple of hours to see a tapir in this huge park has never been easy. But luckily, I must tell you that before we entered the park, we saw the footprints of the tapir, which was a great inspiration. And I knew that if the footprints are there, then the tapir is not very far. So that was one aspect that was very, very good. The tapirs can be found in other parts of South America, just not Costa Rica, but they are endangered, I must tell you that. Tapir is a large herbivorous animal, quite similar to a pig. Like I've told you, the tapir is also found somewhere in Southeast Asia as well. So having encountered this amazing creature of God, the tapir, we continue to hike on. And this intensely dense forest is huge and it's beautiful. Of course, you have these areas of deforestation and loss of habitat, which is now becoming an integrated part of all forests and jungles anywhere that I've been to. So this is, of course, there. As we continued to hike, we saw some other important things, like we saw the bats. We saw bats, these black colored bats on the trunk of the tree. And there are quite a few variety of bats that are found here in the southern part of Costa Rica. These are those. Next, I was able to see a golden silk spider. This was another good sight. So while we continued to move on in this thick forestation and in this wilderness, we could see above us. So as we continued the hike, we could see some howler monkeys, the spider monkeys. I saw a snail. So what we saw was, to me, just chicken feed. The amount and the intensity of this wildlife, everything from an insect to a mammal calls this place its home. So as we continued our trek, we were lucky we came across a waterfall. There are quite a few waterfalls, but this is a waterfall where we could swim a wee bit, relax. It was a very pleasant waterfall. The water was cool. The only thing that is known about this waterfall is that when there's a high tide, there may be what we call the bull sharks, and there may also be crocodiles as long as 4 meters, which can be dangerous. Luckily, at this point in time, when I got into the cool water of the falls, the tide was low and we were on the safer side. So our trek continued, and as we moved on, I saw something that I was awaiting, and this was these small mammals, Cavati mundi, as it's called in the local language. And these are small animals which have a long tail which stands out. The nose is pointed and whitish, and you can see for yourself. And I was lucky. I saw quite a few of them actually, and some of them even came to my foot, and they were safe. According to my guide, I was able to take some glorious clips and enjoy with them for a little time, of course. And as we moved on, after seeing this family of Cavati mundis, we also saw another interesting thing, and this was the leaf-cutting ants. Now there are quite a few, they are in millions, and these leaf-cutting ants are the ones that the anteaters eat. They're in millions, and this is the ones that anteaters survive on. Now these leaf-cutting ants, if you can see, they carry the leaves to their hideouts. The leaf is not their food. The leaves to rot, and when the leaves rot, they develop fungus, and fungus is the actual food of these beautiful, meticulous leaf-cutting ants. There's a team, there's a complete army of leaf-cutting ants. Everyone is deputed with different work. It's a very, very organized system. Now, since these leaf-cutter ants, I was very curious to know about them. My guide told me that they cut the various types of foliage into pieces. Then they carry these to their colony, where they grind up the plant matter. Then they inoculate the leaves with fungus. The harvested fungus is then used as food. This is absolutely amazing. So after studying these ants, intriguing ants, we saw a few spider monkeys jumping over, and a few harlow monkeys as well. So these were the couple of hours spent in this intensely dense forest. It was beautiful. The intensity of the forest, the greenery, the height. The trees were huge, and I was told that some of these trees harbor these animals. They are refuge. These pumas and other cats come at night, and they are able to take refuge. They are able to spend the night inside the tree. They're so huge. I stood by one of the trees, which was absolutely amazing. For a huge place like this, you need a lot of time. You can see anteaters, you can see so many other animals. You can see various types of cats. But you need night tours, you need to stay overnight, you need a couple of days. All this was not possible on this occasion. So after an absorbing and captivating few hours in this beautiful park, we came out of the ranger station, had some snacks, and relaxed. And while relaxing, I was able to take a photo with my guide, and I was able to see a couple of birds as well. So as I stood out on the beach, I could again see footprints of the tapir, and I could see a board which demonstrated or displayed the various types of footprints. I was able to relax on a hammock, and then to my delight, as I'm a bird watcher, I could photograph an American oyster catcher bird, and of course a magnificent frigate bird with a fish in her mouth. This was another important thing. So, having played a part with contentment, we hopped onto the boat and sped off the South Pacific Ocean back to our wonderful resort. So after a day of contentment, a dream come true, and a satisfying day, I was back to the wonderful lodge, the Aguila de Osa. Now let me tell you something about the Aguila de Osa. It's very, very important to describe it. It rests between the forests, and it has trees all over. It's got a beach, and it overlooks the South Pacific Ocean and the Osa, of course. It has got a ground floor with a dining room, and then it's got some rooms up. The climb to the rooms is steep. People would be a little jittery about it. I wouldn't. Although I have a bad knee, but they had placed the rooms in such a way that one could look over the resort into the sea and the South Pacific Ocean and its enchantment. So all in all, this beautiful resort had everything to offer. All types of services, decorated plants. While I relaxed for a very lovely lunch, excellent cooks, I was thinking, why this beautiful place with such intense biodiversity, with gorgeous and exotic, captivating wildlife, it is still under-traveled. Why do people not come here? It is remote, of course, but the only remote places I've seen them all, are really good to see and enjoy. Having said that, I also have heard that these pristine beaches and intense wildlife is now making this portion, Osa Peninsula, as Costa Rica's hottest destinations. I've also heard that the pristine beaches are not allowed to have huts and resorts, so that there is serenity and peacefulness for those who would like to stay in an area where there is little hush and lush. So that is also provided by the government in places to keep it very clean and quiet. So after a very peaceful night, a great dinner, some other people would come there, another family, we had a little get together. The next morning we set out for our next major outing, our next major excursion, and this was as important as the Corcovado National Park. And we were looking forward to seeing some great species of birds and other wildlife. And of course then cruising through this, one of the pristine Sierpe River mangroves. This is the Sierpe River mangrove forest, and I had a very knowledgeable guide. This mangrove, of course, is one of the most ecologically important area in Osa Peninsula. It is important in all of Central America, and I've heard that our visits support the local cooperative efforts to preserve the 4,000 hectares of primary rainforest. So these wetlands are amazing, and I must tell you that they are nationally designated as a forest reserve in 1977 and registered as a Wetland International in 1995. The Sierpe Tarahumara Mangroves National Wetlands, located almost 45 minutes from Osa Peninsula's main hub. The site is entirely owned by and managed by the Ministry of Environment and Energy, and the wetland reserve is a bird and nature tour attraction and hosts an important habitat of many species of bird, fish, shellfish, mammals and reptiles. Also resident are the migratory birds which are often found in the Tarahumara Sierpe, and I was able to see herons, egrets and many others. Must add that many of these species are dependent on this ecosystem for their complete life cycle, reproduction, growth and of course feeding. These Sierpe mangroves are the largest mangroves in Costa Rica, and in fact the largest ones in Central America that I've heard. So while moving along these intense mangroves, I was able to see a lot of birds. I could see a snowy egret, I could see another bird called the yellow-crowned night heron, grey-necked woodrail. I was able to see black mandible toucan. Now this black mandible toucan was something that was exciting, very exciting. I've been thinking about it, I've seen pictures, and I've been chasing this amazing bird, this toucan, and finally I was able to see it in the nests, all in live, here in the Sierpe mangroves in Osa Peninsula. Then came, of course, the other important thing that I was waiting to see was the Central American tree boa snake. I was very close to it, and my guide was very efficient. He took the boat right next to it, and I was able to photograph and videograph it at very close quarters. This was immensely amazing because I had always wanted to be so close to a reptile as big as 6.5 feet, and this was amazing. So this was another important thing that I was able to see. Amongst the birds, I could also see a anhinga. Now, anhinga is a bird that swims like a snake to catch the fish. Very interesting. We might be able to show you a video. And then I saw the grey-necked woodrail, and of course the buffed-throated saltator. All these were birds which were uncommon and rare and found only in this area called the Sierpe mangrove in Osa Peninsula. Of course, not to forget the interesting primates. I saw 3 of them, 3 monkeys. The white-faced capuchin and the spider monkeys, and of course the interesting monkeys were the howler monkeys. They are the noisiest of the monkeys wherever they are. And my guide was able to communicate with it. And I'm sure you'll be able to hear and see.
Oh, beautiful. See how they respond. The howler monkeys are responding to Carlos. Carlos knows them well.
To see the howler monkey communicating with my guide in the Sierpa mangroves here in Osa Peninsula. The other important thing that intrigued me, I was absolutely enthralled and overwhelmed, were these plants, the water plants. They are called the water hyacinth, and they are water plants that grow in areas like the Sierpa mangroves, and they have thick leaves, they have bulbous leaves, the roots are deep into the water, and they oxygenate and help the plants to survive. But having used the oxygen in the water, they could be hazardous for the fish life, and of course they can create blocks in the navigation of the fish. And if you see the videos that we will be showing you, we had problems navigating too. So these are called the water hyacinth plants, and they are intense and very well spread, and they can fill the water to the depth with long, deep-seated roots. So describing these water hyacinths, since not many people see it, I'd like to go a little further. Now these are not native to this place. They are native to Amazon basin, and of course they are the fastest growing plant in the world, and they're used for soup in Thailand, and of course they're used for purification of water. These are very, very important. So while I continued to move on, I could see some more birds, the boat-billed heron, the white ibis, of course, and of course a lot of scarlet macaws, which are like crows. I was able to see some grey vultures, and of course a Jesus Christ lizard, which is very important. To remind you that my previous guide picked up and shown me a slender cannoli lizard too. Not to forget the monarch butterfly that I saw. After this intense forestation and a beautiful Sierpa mangrove, I was able to return to my lodge across the South Pacific. But to tell you that it was not that easy this time. On my way back, we encountered a heavy rainstorm, and the sea was choppy, the boat was shaky. It was a difficult ride, but eventually landed back into the lodge, the Aguila de Osa. After spending a night in this beautiful resort, I was able to travel back from the Drake Bay Airport. But while on my return, I saw this pristine beach line, some amazing landscapes that needs to be described. And this was the end of a very fruitful, amazing session, a dream come true excursion to the southern part of Costa Rica. And I landed in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica, to fly back home. I must tell you, this is an amazing place, and unfortunately this is a documentary where we had to describe one of the most biodiverse areas of the world. This is going to be a little long, it may take a little more than half an hour, but do enjoy this, and if you do subscribe to my channel.